Alright, man. What is your go-to film camera?
Go-to film camera. Right now, rocking this bad boy right here. This is the Canon AE1 program. I'm just kidding. This is the Canon autofocus. Sure shot autofocus. It's a 38mm point and shoot camera. I'm a huge fan of point and shoots, just because of how not only durable they are, some of them are. Some of them are. But just how easy accessible it is, kind of for me to just take them in places. I value a lot of like street photography, car photography. I know you like doing a lot of portrait work. So with me and what I like to do, point and shoots are kind of very fun and just practical for what I enjoy doing. I'm even looking at getting more SLRs to just perfect some of my work and just try out some new cameras. There's a couple of things I have been keeping my eye on, but the cameras are pricey.
It can be. Usually $100 a pop, or maybe a little bit more. Just depends on what you get.
Stop buying them. We'll love that.
Yeah, like this one right here runs close to like $100, $150, but it is an awesome one. Now, there is some pros and cons with point shoots. He loves them. There's a lot of simplicity. So this is a good point to make.
I'm so sorry.
So there's a lot of pros and cons to point shoots. The pros are that it is a compact camera you can slide in your pocket.
Yeah.
You can put it in your hoodie pocket. You can put it on a neck strap. You can put it on a neck strap. Purse. Yeah, easy to carry around. There's no extra lenses. It's a fixed lens.
Yeah.
So those are pros. But the cons is you lose some control, right? Like he is ISO preset, and then he just points to the subject, snaps the photo. The camera does everything else for you. So if you're wanting to get into film, but you're kind of scared of controlling the camera, these are great cameras. But if you're somebody that's like, no, I want to jump right into it, I want to have all the control of the photo, those are not the type of cameras for you. SLRs are the cameras for you. Now, this is what I shoot with a lot. This is his SLR. I have an OM1. I've got an OM2. I've had a Pentax K1000. I've had a couple Sears cameras on the cheaper end. And I have had one Minolta. The cool thing about them is that you do get control. You get control over your aperture. You get control over your shutter speed. You don't get any control over your ISO unless you change the rollout. That's it. So you do get control of the other two things. The con is you have to focus the camera. And focusing some of these SLRs can be difficult. Some of them have split prism, meaning there's two images that slide and line back up with each other, and that shows you. Those are a little bit easier. Another type is that they overlay the images. So you have a viewfinder with this image over here, this image over here, and as you slide them, it becomes more clear. Some of them, you have to know how far away you are from the subject.
Yeah.
So if it's a lens that shoots from 3 feet to 20 feet, you have to know roughly where is that subject in that.
Yeah.
So SLRs are great. You do lose the simplicity that comes with a point and shoot, and that is something that.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of and I guess I can even admit to this. Just I value the simplicity of point and shoots, just because now that I've been shooting like not only film and digital, and I spend a lot of time shooting like an X100V, I like to overshoot. Like I have a very working trigger finger, and so I always like to have over the amount of content that I'm expecting, which. It's always so fun coming back to film because now I have to be a bit more like strategic and cautious about how I'm going to approach a shot or how I'm going to shoot. Point and shoots are always really, really fun for me just because the body style is similar to a lot of other body styles I like having, and it's overall just pretty awesome. There is that portion towards some point and shoots like I don't like because you can't really control the focus. Like you don't really have that control you would like you would have on your iPhone or another some type of digital camera. There is that flaw in that area, but going back to just how imperfections are so awesome in film, I'm okay with that, and I will continue to shoot like point and shoots because they're awesome.
So there are some variations in point and shoots. The one he is from the 70s, I'm pretty sure. Maybe the early 80s, I can't remember. But that one has a fixed focal length of 38 millimeters, so it's a pretty wide angle lens. There are some, like this one.
So cute.
It is cute. This one is a compact Nikon camera. It shoots panoramic photos, which is awesome on film, and it shoots normal. But it does have a zoom lens. So if for some reason you decided that, I really don't like the point and shoot because I feel like it doesn't give me enough range, there are point and shoots like this one that do give you more range, right? So this one shoots from 38 millimeters or similar to that to a 140 millimeter. So if you're traveling and you're like, man, I would like some range on my camera, then there are options with point and shoots that allow you to have more range. So for like example, this would not be a crazy good point and shoot to use for wildlife photography, but if you are too scared to get into SLRs, this is a good step towards getting more into that realm where you can't get into it with that. So that is something to think about when you're thinking about your point and shoot. Do you want range, or do you prefer the f-stop or the aperture for this one? It's going to be a lot lower at that short distance than this one will be. This one, as you extend your lens, you are going to be letting less light in, which is typical for any type of camera. That one is going to give you more bokeh the closer you get to subject. So that is a cool thing. Another cool thing is a lot of these old cameras, these point shoots, they are built in with flashes. So if you are in a dark area, so if you're like, man, I really wish I would have put this low ISO film roll in my camera, you do have some flexibility with the built-in flashes that most of these point shoots that I've seen. So that is a cool thing about point and shoots. Again, just because they're cool, they're like little compact cameras too. Something you can slip in your bag and keep going.
It's super ideal too, you know. I think, especially considering like our generation and how popular film photography is coming, I guess a bit more aggressive to like the social scene. Point and shoots, I feel like, are a very common pickup too. A lot of people don't really branch out to the SLRs unless they're a bit more serious about film photography and they want to take their time to do things. But if you're one of those people who like, I just want a bunch of like pics with old style pictures like with my friends and family and things of that nature, I think having access to one of these is also a very good beginner's course into wanting to do film. So it's popular in a lot of different ways. So if you're considering, picking up film, look into getting point and shoots if you are a bit geared.
There are things that we will not talk about this episode, maybe another time.
Yeah.
Is you do need to know how to use your flash properly, because you could wash your photos out if you are choosing to use it when you shouldn't. Some cameras tell you, like this one lights up inside of it, letting you know when to use your flash. It still could be making that judgment based on what you're pointing at. So like if you're pointing the camera at a really white object, sometimes it assumes that there's enough light there that you don't need the flash. And then sometimes you might be looking at a subject that is wearing like a black t-shirt, and maybe you're pointing a little lower at that black t-shirt, and the camera thinks, oh, I need the flashlight, which could be a detriment to your photo and wash it out. So you need to know how to tell what needs to be exposed well. Now, that's really the only thing you have to worry about with point shoots, but for the most part, they're pretty simple. This one's pretty unique. It does a lot of cool things. This one, it'll do auto flash for you, and it does zoom in and out. It has a timer, which a lot of those point shoots have a timer. It's usually about 10 seconds. That one actually has to pre-focus, which we'll get into that. So there's a lot to it. Just know that. A lot of things to these cameras. Something that you need to know about some of those cameras is when you put the roll in that one, it has to be fed in first, and then it'll take it from there. This one, you just pop the roll in, it scans it, and then it pulls it all the way through. So that's another thing to look for when you look at point shoots. They can be very simple if you look around. Some of them, the older ones, they're going to have great features, but you may lose out on the simplicity. It really just goes down to like, what is the style you want? And if that's something y'all want us to talk about more, let us know. And we could do a whole episode just on different types of cameras and the features.
Yeah.
I am the SLR guy. They usually have general rules. This one has a lot more auto features. Some of them have shutter priority. They'll adjust your aperture for you, and really all you have to worry about is letting the camera know what your ISO is. I don't like that very much. I like having control over my photos, and the reason being, if you're doing a sports photography with a film camera, because they do produce awesome shots, the camera may decide to lower the shutter speed, and then your whole photo is ruined because it's blurred out. So SLR I like to use is my Pentax K1000, my OM1, and I've used the OM2. I've used a few other more mechanical cameras. My OM2 did have a aperture priority mode, but I never used it. I I like having control over my shutter. I like having control over my aperture. The only reason you would maybe want something that's more automatic is if you don't have time to adjust those things, right? Like, I really, to be honest with you, film photography for sports is probably not the best idea in general. You can do it, but you may want to make sure your camera doesn't try to change the shutter speed when you're doing those kind of things. Make it adjust just the aperture. But the basics for these is you have interchangeable lenses. So you have a lot of freedom that you may not have with a point and shoot, right? Because I can always, so that Nikon camera, it can go from 38 to 140. I can extend this out, right? So I have lenses that go from 30 to 24 millimeters all the way up till 210. Okay, so you can add a teleconverting lens to your telephoto lens to allow it to push it further to bring the objects closer. So that's something really cool about SLR that you do not get in a point and shoot. They can adjust the lenses. Now, I will say, if you decide this is not the right lens, you got to take it off and put a new one on. It's not the quickest thing to do. Another thing is, which again I said I like mechanical cameras, is that you can be limited. There are some SLRs that can go faster shutters than this. This one goes up to 1/1000th of a second. Pretty fast. That is plenty for most sports. And it is plenty fast for a lot of wildlife if you're really into that. So many things you can do with cameras you may not know about. Maybe no one existed. Anyway, so you got SLR. You have a lot of control with your shutter speed, your aperture. Again, the hardest thing to do with SLR is just making sure it's focused, which that's what I feel point shoots went out. It's like, sometimes it is hard to tell if things are focused. The only other type of camera that I know well, besides point shoot SLR, is a rangefinder camera. I have a Canon QL17, and then I have this Rolly 35B camera. These are both rangefinders. This rangefinding camera is not as easy as my Canon. My Canon has two images that slide over each other. This one does not have that. You look through the viewfinder, and you have to adjust it by how many feet you think you're away from the subject. Other rangefinders usually have two images that slide over each other, and when those things are perfectly aligned, that photo is in focus. They do give you a little bit more control than a point shoot. They're a little bit more compact than a SLR. They do have fixed focal lengths, aperture, which you don't get to do with point shoots, but they do have a fixed focal length just like the point shoots. So there's kind of a middle ground. There's the easiest to hardest. Easiest one would be point shoot. Middle ground would be the rangefinding type cameras, and then your hardest one is going to be your SLRs, just because you do have good knowledge about how to properly expose your photos. But I think that mostly covers everything about different types of film cameras. I think there's a lot we can talk about. We're going to close out on that. But if you're interested in specific cameras, I am always trying to get my hands on cameras, and Jacob is always using them. If you want us to talk more about specific cameras, let us know, and we will try our best to get our hands on it so we can tell you more about it. I am typically more of a digital camera guy, but I do shoot a lot of film because I love it. He does a lot of film work, and he does a lot of work with his X100B. Yeah, so if you're interested in that, cool. Keep watching.